Silence feels uncomfortable for a reason. When nothing is happening, something starts speaking. Not out loud, not in words you deliberately choose, but as a constant stream in the background, a stream that comments on your life, judges your decisions, predicts what will happen next, interprets every interaction, shapes how you see yourself. You didn't design this voice, you didn't pick its tone, you didn't decide its rules, yet it speaks with authority, as if it were you, as if it were the center, as if it were the source. But the presence of a voice does not mean it is your identity. You are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. You are the space in which it appears. That distinction is small, but it changes everything, because if you are the one hearing the voice, then the voice is something you have, not something you are. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He understood that what people call the self is usually just the conscious surface, a working identity, a psychological interface, useful, necessary, but not the total person. Jung called this surface identity the ego. The ego organizes experience. It keeps track of who you think you are. It manages your social role. It helps you function. But it is not the whole psyche, not even close. Beneath conscious awareness is a vast inner world. Memories you don't remember. Emotions you never processed. Patterns learned before you had language. Instincts, images, fears, wishes, conflicts. All of it alive. All of it influencing you. The voice you hear is shaped by this deeper material. It isn't a neutral narrator. It isn't objective. It isn't truth. It is a psychological product, built over time, formed through experience, especially early experience. Your nervous system learned what led to safety, what led to rejection, what led to punishment, what led to approval. From that learning, strategies formed, mental habits formed, internal rules formed. Those rules became thoughts. Those thoughts became a voice. If you grew up around criticism, an inner critic developed. If you grew up around instability, a scanning, anxious voice developed. If you learned love was conditional, a voice that says, "Don't mess this up," developed. These voices weren't created to torture you. They were created to protect you. But protection in childhood can become limitation in adulthood. Jung called these semi-independent parts of the psyche complexes. A complex is a cluster of emotional memory, belief, and reaction. When a complex is activated, it temporarily takes over. It colors perception, it drives behavior, it feels like me. But it isn't the whole you, it is a part. One part speaking loudly. Most suffering comes from mistaking a part for the whole. When a thought says, "I'm broken," it feels final, absolute. When in reality it means, a wounded part is active. When a thought says, "I always fail," it feels factual. When in reality it means, a discouraged part is speaking. Language collapses complexity. So identity gets fused to content. You don't experience a thought. You become the thought. You don't notice fear. You become fear. You don't observe self-doubt. You become self-doubt. That fusion is the trap. Not having negative thoughts. Believing they define you. Jung believed psychological growth begins with differentiation. The ability to notice inner events without being possessed by them. To see thoughts as thoughts. Emotions as emotions. Images as images. Not commands, not verdicts, not identity. This doesn't mean suppressing anything. Jung strongly warned against repression. Whatever you push away goes underground. Whatever goes underground gains power. The goal isn't silence. The goal is relationship. Instead of asking, "How do I stop these thoughts?" a Jungian question is, what part of me is speaking right now? What does it want? What is it afraid of? What is it trying to prevent? Every inner voice has a purpose, even the destructive ones. A voice that tells you you're worthless may be trying to lower your expectations so you don't get hurt. A voice that tells you to isolate may be trying to prevent rejection. A voice that tells you not to try may be trying to spare you disappointment. Outdated strategies, but understandable ones. Seeing this changes your inner posture. You stop attacking yourself. You start listening, not agreeing, not obeying, listening. Another key. Jungian insight. The psyche is not singular. You are not one solid block. You are a system, a collection of parts, some mature, some young, some wounded, some protective, some wise. The voice you hear usually belongs to one of these parts, but it presents itself as total reality. It speaks in absolutes, always, never, everyone, no one. That absolutism is a clue. Healthy reality is nuanced. Rigid certainty often signals emotional activation, not truth. Jung also distinguished between personal material and collective material. Some thoughts and emotions don't come only from your biography. They come from deeper human patterns, ancient themes, fear of chaos, fear of death, longing for meaning, need for belonging. These are archetypal forces. When archetypal energy moves through you, it feels powerful, overwhelming, bigger than your personal story. If you think that power is your identity, you drown in it. If you recognize it as a psychological current, you can ride it. Jung called the deepest organizing center of the psyche the self. Not the ego, not the voice. The self is the total system, conscious and unconscious together. You don't hear the self as constant chatter. It doesn't argue. It doesn't insult. It doesn't catastrophize. It communicates quietly, through intuition, through gut sense, through symbols, through dreams, through a feeling of alignment or misalignment. The voice is loud. The self is steady. The voice panics. The self grounds. The voice demands certainty. The self tolerates uncertainty. Learning to distinguish between the two is a major step in maturation. Jung called the process of becoming who you actually are individuation. Not becoming perfect. Not becoming happy all the time. Becoming whole. Wholeness means no longer identifying with only one part of yourself. It means allowing consciousness to include shadow, fear, desire, strength, vulnerability, creativity, anger, tenderness. All of it. A practical shift happens when you start changing your language. Instead of, I'm anxious, you say, I'm noticing anxiety. Instead of, I'm broken, you say, a part of me feels broken. That may sound small. It isn't. It creates psychological space. Space creates choice. Choice creates freedom. Freedom doesn't mean you never struggle. It means struggle doesn't own you. The voice inside you will probably always exist. But it no longer gets to be the ruler. It becomes one voice among many, a data point, not a dictator. Over time, something deeper starts to become more accessible. A quiet sense of presence, a feeling of being here. Not as a story, not as a label, but as awareness itself. You stop experiencing yourself as a character inside your head. You start experiencing yourself as the one aware of the character. That shift is subtle, but it's everything. Because once you know you are not the voice, you stop trying to fix yourself as if you're a broken object. You start relating to yourself as a complex living system. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what is trying to be understood? That question changes the direction of your life, not toward perfection, but toward wholeness, not toward control, but toward integration. The voice inside you isn't you. It's a psychological function, a tool, a messenger, sometimes useful, sometimes distorted. You are larger than any thought, deeper than any emotion, wider than any story. You are the awareness that contains all of it, and learning to live from that place is the beginning of real psychological freedom.